Welcome to Keeping Score. I'm Rick Horrow. Each week we bring you insights from the playmakers, deal makers, and rule makers in the world of sports. I'll give you my take on some of the items of the week using my 30 years of experience doing deals for teams, leagues, and players in the $750 billion business of sports. Plus, we'll talk with a central figure in the sports world. The views expressed in this podcast are my own and do not represent the views of Reuters. Let's get started. LeBron James remains in the top spot of the Horrow Sports MVP Index Power 100 this year. The rankings evaluate an athlete's brand and marketability. James number one for the third straight year. Fellow NBA star Stephen Curry jumps to the second spot from 45th place last year. Tennis's Novak Djokovic, third, followed by Serena Williams and Kevin Durant of the NBA's Oklahoma City Thunder, rounding out the top five. On-field results comprise 50% of athletes' power ranking, while the other half is based on off-field attributes, primarily social media presence, including reach, engagement, and conversation. More on LeBron later in the show, and you can find more on the rankings by going to our blog page on Reuters.com. Just search Keeping Score Reuters online, and you'll find a link to the page. Number 25 in the Power 100 was number one at the Masters last year, Jordan Spieth, the golf champion trying to bring home another green jacket this weekend. His main apparel sponsor, Under Armour, would be thrilled. It signed a $20 million deal with him last year, and Vegas odds makers have him as the number two choice behind Australian Jason Day. Well, there's a lot of money on the line at the tournament. At least the concessions are cheap. Its famous pimento cheese sandwich only costs $1.50. Domestic beer only $3, while an imported beer will run you $4. And one non-Power 100 story this week: the NFL is doing a deal with Twitter, the social media site paying less than $10 million for rights to stream 10 Thursday night games in 2016, according to tech website Recode. Twitter said it won't charge users to watch, and the feed will include national ads sold by TV networks NBC and CBS, who are broadcasting the games. Now back to the Power 100 and top finisher LeBron James. I spoke with his lawyer and friend, Fred Nance.
Fred Nance, Squire, Patton, Boggs, regional managing partner, operating out of the Cleveland office. What's your thought about LeBron James, your client, friend, mentee, wrapping up the Power 100 spot for I guess it's now the fourth straight year?
Well, Rick, while I'm hardly unbiased, I'd have to say that I'm not aware of another athlete that presents the comprehensive package that LeBron does. His on-the-court accomplishments are pretty obvious. The MVPs, the All-Star Game MVPs, the NBA championships, and now the prodigal son story of him putting all of Cleveland on his back and coming home and seeking to break the long chain of sports championship disappointments here, speak to his capabilities as an athlete on the one hand, but on the other hand, this young man, and he's all of 31 years old, is now a multinational conglomerate who's got business interests that are well known, that are, as I said, international, and that are really indicative of a new level for athlete businessmen that I think are going to take him to unprecedented levels.
Yeah, and we all agree, frankly, for the sixth one of these that we've done, we've shifted a lot of it to social media for the 50% off-court score. No question, he's up in the top two at least, maybe one on-court. But the interesting off-court stuff is reach, engagement, and conversation, which are the three components that comprise everybody's social media score. I guess it's no surprise to you or anybody else that LeBron James excels in all aspects of social media by deliberate design. But what makes him so special as a social media icon as well?
Well, Rick, you don't get to roughly, and the number changes every day, almost 34 million followers on Twitter. You don't get there unless you have your finger on the pulse of what interests people, and most interestingly in sports, what inspires people. I think there's a level of connection that people make with his endeavor to come home and to be an economic development engine for an entire region. And I also think he has a feel for the perspective of the average sports fan. Same thing on Instagram. I think he's got north of 20 million followers. And those who attempt to monetize the value of this say that a tweet by LeBron is worth 140, 150K per tweet, which is just an amazing thing. Again, I think it is a combination of obviously his success as an athlete, but also let's remember the Horatio Alger component to LeBron's story, how he came from very meager circumstances, very humble beginnings, and has figured out a way to not only be successful on the court, off the court, in the film industry, and a variety of businesses, but also in terms of giving back. What doesn't get as much publicity is the work of his foundation. And without getting into too much detail, one of the most amazing things is a deal that he has with the University of Akron, where literally hundreds of the kids in the Akron public schools who are a part of his foundation, who make promises and receive routine feedback from him, promises to do their homework, to be good citizens, to achieve a certain grade point average. They're all going to get a full 4-year ride to the University of Akron because of LeBron.
Well, and it's up, to people in and outside of his circle to explain how comprehensive and how unique that really is. Is it fair to say that you're one of the top 2, one of the top 3 advisors that he's got, meaning we know about Maverick Carter and his marketing company. You've been on the legal advisor side for a while. Give us a snapshot of Team LeBron from your perspective.
Well, first I'll say that I have learned early on, and the way I have survived in this role is I do what we call playing my position, meaning my role is as lawyer. I don't try to become business partner. I'm not life counselor, but from time to time, I do get the opportunity to share my viewpoint of how we should handle a given situation. I think there's no question that the partnership, the symbiotic partnership between LeBron and Maverick Carter has yielded results way beyond what anyone could have reasonably anticipated. Maverick is a special guy. Maverick is one of those guys with the magic personality, that charisma that you encounter occasionally in life where people are drawn to him. You add his intellectual curiosity and then the circles those guys travel in, and it is a combination, a formula that has yielded just outstanding results. The fact that they have a film production company and they're making movies, they've got a partnership with Warner Brothers, they've got a partnership with CNBC that's going to premiere a series this fall entitled Cleveland Hustles, which is going to talk about and address the issues facing young entrepreneurs who are trying to get businesses up and running. They had the foresight to make a deal with Fenway Sports Management that got them a stake in the Liverpool Football Club. The investments they've made with Beats, with Cannondale, the combination of LeBron's success, celebrity, the humanness that he brings to that role, and then Maverick's interpersonal skills, vision, capability has been, it's created just unparalleled success. And I see no end in sight. These guys are both still in their 30s. I mean, what are we going to be talking about them 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
Is LeBron, I know your answer, I think, because I've known you a long time. Is LeBron a better businessman or a better athlete?
Oh, gee, that's a tough question. Well, if you measured it strictly by dollars, you'd have to say businessman, but obviously the two are inextricably intertwined. I don't know how you separate them. I'll just say he is an all-star in both.
Yeah, I was going to say you would have said tied for first or something like that. One more LeBron question, then we'll branch out. The interesting dynamic about the Power 100 over the years has been the rise and fall, and we'll do some of that in later episodes with other people. But Peyton Manning went from number 1 5 years ago to unranked this year, not because of anything off the field, but he doesn't do social media, and there's a whole world that he actually doesn't deal with. Tiger Woods went from number 1 6 years ago to unranked, and we know why. And Kobe went from number 12 to 84 over a 5-year period because of a little bit of off the field, no transgressions, but quality reduction, I guess you could argue. LeBron has been 2-11, 4, 1, 1, 1, 1, and I guess you could comment on his consistency as well as a positive virtue.
There's no question about it. As I understand it, 50% of the criteria is the on-the-court or field performance. The other 50% is off the court or off the field. I'm sure as long as LeBron is playing the game, he's going to be among your top-ranked athletes because he is so good at both, so excels at both. Here again is where I tell him he's lightning in a bottle. I credit the vision that he and Maverick, not to mention Rich Paul, his agent, who's also a part of the team and who's doing very well in his own right, both in terms of representing LeBron and landing additional players. You know, for these young men to have the vision to have a global reach and to build a business enterprise that has the impact that it's had is nothing short of remarkable. You think about the offspring of some of the most successful people in the country who have not been able to manage the same thing at such a young age, and it's just a remarkable, remarkable story. Let me tell you, Rick, I went to a partners meeting, one of our global partners meetings recently, and I had partners from Paris, from Prague, from Beijing, saying to me, you know, it's really cool we represent LeBron. I have people in my country who are asking me about him and will he ever come and see us. You put that in the context of from whence they started, and it's like a fairy tale come true.
How do you deal emotionally with the fact that your popularity is 150% because of LeBron James?
Well, in my profession, we'd say objection to the form of the question, faulty foundation.
Very well put, as usual. So one more quick one about his company, and we don't have to get into the whole Johnny Manziel issue, but it is common knowledge that LRMR had him and has him no more. LeBron is a social media fanatic. You said that earlier. So it gives him and his people the ability to deal with trends in an instant and also deal with people in a way that are mindful of how a brand can change overnight. I guess that's the leading question I want you to talk about for a second.
Well, it's very true. And again, you think about the level of responsibility, the weight on the shoulders of somebody in his early 30s to know that if he has a bad day or is in a bad mood and tweets something, that there are tens of millions of people who are going to see it, untold number of media sources that are going to pick it up, and it can change attitudes, it can change the perception of him. That's a tremendous responsibility, but again, he has worn it extremely well. He recognizes some social responsibility, and while generally he has adhered to the rule of separating athletics from social commentary, you know, he has moved gradually into that field. I suspect that's going to continue as he recognizes the tremendous ability that he has to influence public sentiment about the issues of the day. I think he's going to do that sparingly, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw more and more of it over time.
Well, and I guess that's the final one about him in the future. How important does he feel does he have a moral obligation in his own way because of the platform he's been given to change the world? He's certainly changing Akron, and he's changing Northern Ohio. You have Tiger Woods grappling with his own issues that his father kind of created for him, and so give us a take on how LeBron James views that kind of obligation and responsibility.
Well, I believe he would think it's a bit grandiose, notwithstanding some truth to it, that he's in a position to change the world. But I do think he understands the power of his celebrity, and that he has to live, and he aspires to live according to certain values because of the world watching. And he also recognizes that whether it's through basketball, it's through the film industry, it's through his business platforms that give him the opportunity to, again, have a voice, that he needs to be constructive. He needs to be an inspiration for other people who are similarly situated, who may otherwise feel that they don't necessarily have the same type of aspirations that he clearly had as a young man. I think that is something that I'll call it a growing awareness of the level of impact that he can have, and he's well on his way to discharging it.
Fred Nann's regional managing partner, Esquire Patton Boggs, speak with you soon.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Keeping Score. I'm Rick Horrow. The producer of the show, Alex Cohen. Associate producer, Bethel Habte. Assistance provided by Tanner Simpkins and Carla Swadek. And the executive editor of Reuters Digital, Dan Colarusso.